The vast darkness of space lit up with unusual energy readings as the Galactic Council's survey ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. The ship's captain, a tall, blue-skinned alien named Rax, leaned forward in his command chair, his four eyes widening at the sensor readings before him. "Another primitive system to add to our collection," Rax muttered, but his confidence wavered as he studied the detailed scans. The third planet from the sun showed signs of advanced civilization, yet something seemed off about the readings. The Council's long-range sensors detected radio waves, satellite communications, and the normal signs of a developing species. But there was something else, strange energy fluctuations that their instruments couldn't quite understand. According to the Council's assessment protocols, this Earth ranked as a Class 3 civilization, barely worthy of notice. Rax followed standard Council procedure, sending his findings to Central Command. Within hours, the response arrived. Earth was to be diplomatically integrated into the Council. Everyone knew what that meant. The planet would be given a choice between voluntary submission or forced compliance. The Council assembled its diplomatic fleet, 5 sleek warships disguised with elaborate ceremonial markings, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent. They jumped into Earth's solar system in perfect formation, expecting to find a panicked response from the primitive species. Instead, they found silence. Earth's communications continued as normal. Their satellites kept transmitting. Their ships moved about their orbital paths without deviation. It was almost as if they hadn't noticed the arrival of an alien fleet at all. "Impossible," Rax growled, ordering another scan. "They should be scrambling their defenses by now." That's when they saw it. At first, it appeared as just another shadow on their sensors, perhaps a glitch in the scanning system. But as the massive form emerged from behind Earth's moon, every alarm on the Council ships began screaming. A single warship, but unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. It was huge, nearly 3 times the size of the largest Council vessel. Its hull seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it, creating an unsettling void in space. No energy readings emerged from its surface, yet it moved with impossible precision. "Scan it again," Rax ordered, his voice cracking. The sensors tried and failed to penetrate the ship's hull. They couldn't even determine what materials it was made from. A communication request flashed on their screens. The Council fleet accepted, expecting to hear frightened questions or desperate pleas. Instead, a calm human voice filled their command centers. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Warship Retribution. You have entered restricted space without authorization. State your purpose." The Council's diplomatic commander, Leader Val, stepped forward with practiced authority. "We represent the Galactic Council, the governing body of civilized space. We come to offer Earth the privilege of joining our enlightened collective." There was a pause long enough to make the Council representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. When Captain Morrison spoke again, his voice carried a hint of amusement. "We are aware of the Council. We are aware of your true intentions. We are aware of your standard procedures for diplomatic integration. We have been aware for a very long time." The Council fleet's sensors suddenly came alive with new readings. Hidden installations across Earth's solar system revealed themselves, defense platforms, monitoring stations, and technology that defied their understanding. "Impossible," Leader Val sputtered. "Your species barely has functional spaceflight. Our records show." "Your records," Morrison interrupted, "show exactly what we wanted them to show. For 300 years, humanity has watched, learned, and prepared. We developed in secret, knowing that one day the Council would come with its false diplomacy and hidden threats. The Retribution moved closer, and now the Council ships could see the details of its hull, layers of technology that seemed to bend reality itself. Gunports larger than their entire ships lined its sides, yet somehow they had missed them in their initial scans. "We will give you one opportunity," Morrison continued. "Leave this system now. Return to your Council. Tell them that Earth is not interested in their offer, and that we value our independence." As the Council fleet hastily prepared to retreat, Captain Morrison added one final message, and warned them, The next diplomatic fleet they send will not be given the chance to leave. The Council ships fled into hyperspace, leaving behind a solar system that was far, far more than they had bargained for. Humanity's long-prepared revelation had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council's diplomatic fleet returned to Earth's solar system 3 days later, but this time they weren't alone. 20 warships dropped out of hyperspace in attack formation, their weapons powered and shields raised. The Retribution remained in the same position, floating silently near Earth's moon. "Primitive humans," announced Council Commander Dax through an open channel. "Your defiance is noted, but ultimately futile. The Council does not tolerate independent worlds within its sphere of influence. You have 1 standard hour to surrender and accept integration." Inside the Retribution's command center, Captain Morrison sat calmly in his chair, watching multiple holographic displays showing every detail of the Council fleet. His crew worked quietly at their stations, their movements practiced and precise. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "their weapons are charging, but they're using outdated targeting systems. They still can't get a proper lock on our ship." Morrison nodded. 300 years of technological development, hidden from their spy networks. They still think we're using chemical rockets and basic computers. He allowed himself a small smile. "Let's see how they handle a demonstration." One of the smaller Council ships, eager to prove itself, launched what they considered a warning shot, a low-powered energy blast aimed to pass near the Retribution's bow. They expected the humans to panic at this display of superior technology. Instead, something impossible happened. A small point of light emerged from the Retribution's surface. In less than a microsecond, it intercepted the energy blast and consumed it. The Council's sensors couldn't understand what they were seeing. The energy simply vanished, absorbed by what appeared to be a quantum singularity no larger than a coin. "By the first ones," whispered Commander Dax, watching the readings. "What kind of point defense system is that?" "Attention, Council vessels." Morrison's voice came through clear and calm. "Your weapons technology is approximately 240 years behind our current defensive capabilities. That was a Class II energy nullifier, one of our older systems. Would you like to see something more recent?" The Council ships held their positions, suddenly uncertain. Their scans still couldn't penetrate the Retribution's hull, and now they watched as hundreds of similar points of light emerged across its surface, a defense grid that could apparently swallow energy weapons whole. "Impossible," shouted Commander Dax. "No species could advance so quickly in secret. Our records show your first spaceflight was less than a century ago." "Your records," Morrison replied, "show a carefully crafted deception. While you watched our public space program, our real development happened elsewhere. Every failed rocket launch hit a quantum technology test. Every primitive satellite masked a stealth observation platform. We knew you were watching, so we gave you exactly what you expected to see. The Retribution's surface shifted, sections of its hull rotating to reveal weapon ports that hadn't been visible before. Each port contained technology that made the Council's sensors scramble in confusion. Weapons that operated on principles their science couldn't comprehend. "This is your final warning," Morrison announced. "You have seen a fraction of our defensive capabilities. Leave Council space adjacent to Earth's solar system, or we will be forced to demonstrate our offensive systems as well." Commander Dax, his pride wounded but his survival instinct intact, prepared to give the retreat order. But one of his ship captains, driven by fear and anger, made a fatal mistake. The Council vessel launched a full power beam at the Retribution. The human ship didn't even bother to dodge. The beam struck what appeared to be empty space 3 kilometers from the hull, and vanished into a field of quantum distortions that turned the attack into harmless light. "Very well," Morrison said, his voice carrying a note of resignation. "You were warned." A single projectile, smaller than a human fist, launched from the Retribution. It passed through the Council ship's shields as if they didn't exist, then through the hull without leaving a hole. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every electronic system on the Council ship simply stopped working. No explosion, no destruction, just complete technological silence. That, Morrison explained to the stunned Council fleet, was a mercy shot. The next one won't be. You have 5 minutes to leave the system. Your disabled ship will be towed to the edge of your space. Let it serve as a reminder. Earth is not what you thought we were. The Council fleet retreated in disorder, leaving their powerless companion behind. They had come expecting to find primitives. Instead, they had found something far more dangerous. Humans who had spent centuries preparing for this very moment. The Council's high command chamber erupted in chaos as reports from the diplomatic fleet reached them. The massive circular room, filled with representatives from 100 species, echoed with angry shouts and fearful whispers. High Commander Vex, a veteran of countless integration campaigns, stood at the center platform, his scaled skin reflecting the light as he addressed the gathering. These humans have deceived us for centuries. Our archives show we first discovered them 300 years ago, but deemed them too primitive for contact. The chamber's main screen displayed footage from the Retribution, its dark hull seeming to absorb both light and hope from the assembled leaders. They were burning fossil fuels, shouted one representative, using primitive combustion engines. It was all a lie, Vex responded, his voice heavy with realization. Every primitive rocket, every crude satellite. They were showing us what we wanted to see. While we watched their public space program, they built something far more advanced and secret. The chamber fell silent as new information appeared on the screens. Data recovered from the disabled ship showed weapon signatures unlike anything in Council records. The ship's systems hadn't been destroyed. They had been shut down by technology that rewrote the laws of physics as the Council understood them. We must respond with force, declared War Master Kraz, his cybernetic eyes glowing with anger. No single species can be allowed to possess such power. The Council's authority must be maintained. Deep in human space, aboard the Retribution, Captain Morrison received the transmission he had been expecting. The Council was mobilizing its main battle fleet, over 300 warships, the largest assembly of military power in known space. They're making exactly the mistake we predicted, Morrison told his crew. Admiral Thomas will be pleased. As if summoned by his words, a hologram appeared on the bridge. Admiral Thomas, commander of Earth's hidden fleet, looked at Morrison with knowing eyes. Status report, Captain. The Council took the bait, sir. They think the Retribution is our only ship. They have no idea about the others. Thomas nodded. Activate Protocol Revelation. It's time to show them what humanity has really been doing for the past 3 centuries. Throughout Earth's solar system, space itself seemed to ripple. Hidden shipyards, cloaked by quantum fields, began to appear. Dozens of warships, each as advanced as the Retribution, emerged from their secret berths. But these weren't new constructions. They had been there all along, waiting for this moment. The Council's battle fleet arrived in formations they had practiced for centuries, their ships arranged in perfect attack patterns. They expected to find a single human vessel. Instead, they found 30, each larger and more advanced than anything they had ever encountered. Attention Council fleet. Admiral Thomas's voice echoed through every Council ship. You seem to be operating under several misconceptions. Allow me to correct them. The human ships moved with impossible precision, taking positions that somehow placed them both in front of and behind the Council fleet simultaneously. A display of spatial manipulation that defied conventional physics. First misconception, that we are primitive. The technology you see represents only a fraction of our capabilities. Second misconception, that we were ignorant of your existence. We have had stealth observation posts in your space since before your current leadership was born. Council sensors detected massive energy buildups across the human fleet, but the readings made no sense. Their scientists had believed such power levels were theoretically impossible. Final misconception, that this is a fight you can win. We spent 3 centuries preparing not because we feared you, but because we wanted to ensure that when this day came, there would be no doubt about the outcome. The Council fleet's commanders watched in horror as their sophisticated targeting systems simply stopped working. Their weapons, the pride of their civilization, couldn't even lock onto the human ships. You have 2 options, Thomas continued. Return to your space and accept that Earth and its surrounding systems are permanently independent of Council control, or demonstrate that you need a more convincing display of our capabilities. In the Council chamber, watching through real-time feeds, High Commander Vex finally understood. They had completely misread humanity's patience for weakness. Their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology. It was underestimating human foresight. The galaxy was about to change, and the Council had no choice but to watch it happen. War Master Kraz made the decision that would go down in Council history as the beginning of their downfall. All ships open fire. He commanded, his cybernetic implants glowing with rage. 300 Council warships fired their most powerful weapons simultaneously. The space between the fleets lit up with enough energy to destroy a small moon. The Council commanders watched with satisfaction, certain that no defense could withstand such overwhelming force. They were wrong. The human fleet didn't dodge. They didn't scatter. Instead, the space around their ships shimmered with a faint blue light. As the Council's energy weapons struck this field, something impossible happened. The attacks curved around the human ships as if space itself was being bent. Fascinating, Admiral Thomas remarked calmly from his flagship. They're still using linear energy weapons. Lieutenant Reed, please demonstrate our shield technology's response capabilities. The blue field surrounding the human ships suddenly pulsed, every Council energy being reversed direction, turning back toward their sources. But instead of striking the Council ships, the energy dissolved into harmless light just before impact. We could have sent your attacks back at you, Thomas announced to the stunned Council fleet. Instead, we chose to neutralize them. Remember that. War Master Kraz wasn't finished. Launch quantum torpedoes. Their shields can't bend matter weapons. The Council ships launched their most advanced weapons, torpedoes that could phase through normal matter. They had never failed to penetrate any known defense. But as the torpedoes approached the human fleet, they simply stopped. Frozen in space, the Council's ultimate weapons hung motionless. An interesting design, Thomas commented, examining the torpedoes through his ship's sensors. But you're still thinking in 3 dimensions. Commander Parker, demonstrate our hull response system. The surface of the human ships rippled like liquid metal. Tiny points of light, each no bigger than a coin, emerged from their hulls. These lights shot toward the frozen torpedoes, surrounding each one in a complex geometric pattern. What you're seeing, Thomas explained to the watching Council fleet, is a quantum-locked containment field. Your torpedoes exist in 3 dimensions. Our defensive systems operate in 11. The points of light pulsed once, and the torpedoes vanished, transported to an empty region of space where they detonated harmlessly. War Master Kraz stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Impossible. No species could develop such technology in secret. Actually, Thomas replied, his voice carrying a hint of amusement, hiding our development was the easy part. The hard part was deciding how much to reveal now. The human ships began moving in perfect synchronization, their formations defying normal space physics. They seemed to slide between moments, appearing in multiple positions simultaneously before settling into their final places, surrounding the Council fleet in a 3-dimensional grid. Your ships use quantum computers, Thomas continued. Ours use quantum reality engines. Your weapons manipulate energy and matter. Ours manipulate the laws of physics themselves. This isn't a battle between equals. It's a demonstration of why patience and preparation matter. From each human ship, a thin beam of silver light emerged. These beams didn't strike the Council vessels. Instead, they created a network of lines in space, forming a massive geometric pattern around the Council fleet. This is a Type 3 containment grid, Thomas explained. Your ships can still move and fire within it, but you cannot leave. Consider it a demonstration of restraint. We could have used the Type 4 grid, which would have shut down your ships completely. Inside the Council ships, sensors were going crazy. Their most advanced scientific instruments couldn't make sense of what they were seeing. The human technology wasn't just more advanced. It operated on principles that the Council had never even theorized. You have 2 minutes to signal your surrender, Thomas announced. After that, we'll be forced to demonstrate our offensive capabilities. I assure you, you don't want that." In his command chair, War Master Kraz realized that every assumption the Council had made about humanity had been wrong. They weren't facing a young species with a few advanced tricks. They were facing a civilization that had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. And they were completely unprepared for what would happen next. War Master Kraz watched his tactical display with growing horror as more Council ships disappeared from his sensors. Not destroyed, simply gone, as if they'd never existed. The human fleet moved through his formations like ghosts, their technology making mockery of the Council's most advanced defenses. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, voice shaking, "we've lost contact with battle groups 3 through 7. They're just gone." In the space around them, reality itself seemed to bend. The human ships didn't fly through space. They manipulated it, creating shortcuts between points that shouldn't have been possible. A human vessel would disappear from one location and instantly appear at another, without any sign of movement between points. Admiral Thomas's voice echoed through the remaining Council ships. "Your fleet is now reduced to 20% strength. No ships have been destroyed. We simply relocated them to a safe distance. This is your final opportunity to withdraw." Kraz slammed his fist on his command console. Never. The Council does not surrender to primitives. He activated his fleet-wide comm. "All remaining ships, initiate emergency hyperspace jump. Scatter and regroup at Rally Point Delta." The Council ships engaged their hyperspace drives, attempting to escape. But something was wrong. The familiar blue swirl of hyperspace appeared, but instead of entering it, their ships remained in normal space. "An interesting attempt," Thomas commented. "Unfortunately, you're using outdated hyperspace technology. Allow me to demonstrate current human standards." The human fleet suddenly vanished, not one by one, but all at once. Kraz's sensors showed them reappearing at multiple points around his fleet simultaneously. Some ships seemed to exist in 2 places at once, breaking fundamental laws of physics. "What you're seeing," Thomas explained, "is quantum state travel. Your hyperspace technology treats space like a road. Ours treats it like a suggestion." From within his flagship, Kraz watched as strange devices emerged from the human ships. They looked like small satellites, each no larger than a shuttle. But as they activated, they created a web of energy that seemed to capture the very fabric of space. "These are our hyperspace anchors," Thomas continued. "They don't just prevent hyperspace travel. They control which laws of physics apply in their area of effect." A Council captain, driven by panic, ordered his ship to ram the nearest human vessel. His ship accelerated to full speed, but instead of covering the distance, it seemed to move further away with each second. "Distance is relative," Thomas said, almost conversationally. "Your engines are trying to cross space. Our technology is redefining what space is." Throughout the Council fleet, artificial intelligence systems began shutting down. Their quantum computers, the pride of Council technology, went dark one by one, but the human ships remained active, operating on principles that made Council scientists' heads spin. "Your eye uses quantum computing," Thomas explained. "Ours uses quantum consciousness. Your computers process reality. Ours negotiate with it." Kraz watched in despair as his mighty fleet fell apart without a single shot fired. Ships floated powerless, their crews unable to even send distress signals. Others found themselves hundreds of light years from their original position, transported there in the blink of an eye. "War Master," his second-in-command whispered, "we're receiving reports from across Council space. Human ships are appearing in every major system. They've been there all along, cloaked, waiting." On his main screen, Kraz saw Admiral Thomas's face. The human looked almost sympathetic. "Your civilization has ruled through fear and force for too long. We spent centuries preparing not just to defeat you, but to make sure you could never threaten another developing species again." The remaining Council ships hung motionless in space, their mighty weapons useless, their advanced technology reduced to scrap by forces they couldn't comprehend. 3 centuries of human preparation had rendered the most powerful fleet in known space completely helpless. The age of the Council's unchallenged dominion, Thomas declared, is over. Welcome to a new era. Humanity will ensure it's a peaceful one, whether you choose to cooperate or not. As the last of his ships lost power, War Master Kraz finally understood. The Council hadn't lost a battle today. They had lost their future. The Council's Grand Chamber, once a symbol of absolute power, now echoed with chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species argued as reports continued to flood in from across known space. Human ships had appeared in every major system, emerging from cloaks that had hidden them for decades. High Commander Vex stood at the central podium, trying to maintain order. Please, we must approach this crisis with unity. His voice was lost in the storm of accusations and fear. Unity? Shouted the representative from the Trian systems, a younger species that had joined the Council only centuries ago. Your pride and arrogance led us to this disaster. You found humans 300 years ago and dismissed them as primitives. Now look at what that mistake has cost us. The chamber's main screen showed stunning images from across Council space. Human observation posts, hidden in plain sight for generations, deactivating their cloaking fields. Some had been disguised as asteroids, others as defunct satellites, and some had existed in spaces between normal space-time. The humans could have conquered us at any time, the Trian representative continued. Instead, they waited. They watched. They made sure that when they finally revealed themselves, there would be no doubt about their power. From his private chambers, former War Master Kraz watched the proceedings through a secure feed. His cybernetic implants had been deactivated by human technology, leaving him feeling half blind. They didn't just defeat us, he muttered. They changed the very nature of power in the galaxy. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Thomas met with representatives from various Council species. Not in person, the human ships projected a quantum space meeting room, allowing participants to interact as if they were physically present while remaining on their own vessels. Your Council, Thomas explained to the gathered aliens, was built on fear and force. We spent centuries preparing not just to resist you, but to create an opportunity for change. A holographic display showed the extent of human preparation. Observation posts in every Council system, stealth ships monitoring every major fleet movement, quantum consciousness AIs that had mapped every political connection and power structure. Humanity could have revealed itself many times, Thomas continued. We could have fought back when you first found us. Instead, we chose patience. We wanted to understand not just your technology, but your society, your politics, your weaknesses. In the Council chamber, more representatives were breaking ranks. The Nexus Cluster, a group of systems that had always resented Council authority, formally announced their withdrawal. Others quickly followed. The humans didn't just beat our fleet, the Nexus representative declared. They proved that the Council's power was built on outdated technology and false assumptions. We withdraw from the Council and request human protection. High Commander Vex watched helplessly as centuries of political control crumbled. The Council had maintained power through technological superiority and military might. Now both had been proven meaningless against human capabilities. In the quantum meeting room, Thomas shared humanity's proposal. We don't seek to rule. We don't want to control. We offer partnership, protection, and progress. Your species can retain their independence while working together for mutual benefit. The news spread across Council space at FTL speeds. Species that had been oppressed for generations saw an opportunity for freedom. Worlds that had hidden their own technological advances revealed themselves, seeking alliance with Earth. The old Council is finished, announced the representative from the Stellar Assembly, another powerful faction. Their authority was based on fear. The humans have shown us a different path. Back in the Council chamber, Vex finally understood the full scope of human strategy. They didn't just prepare for war, he said to the remaining loyal representatives. They prepared to reshape the entire political structure of known space. The humans had succeeded not just through superior technology, but through patience and understanding. They had spent centuries learning every weakness, every crack in the Council's power, ensuring that when they finally acted, the entire system would transform. The age of council dominance was over. A new era of galactic politics had begun, crafted by centuries of human foresight and planning. 1 month after humanity's revelation, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The great hall that once housed the council now hosted a different gathering. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in a circular arrangement, symbolizing equality rather than hierarchy. Human technology had transformed the chamber itself, with quantum space interfaces allowing even the smallest worlds to have a voice. Admiral Thomas stood at the center, but not on a raised platform as council leaders once did. Instead, he stood on the same level as everyone else. The Admiral's hologram was being broadcast simultaneously to every world in known space. For centuries, humanity watched and waited. Thomas began, not just to protect ourselves, but to understand how to make things better for everyone. Today, we take the first step toward that future. The chamber's displays showed the changes already spreading across known space. Human quantum technology was being shared with peaceful worlds, transforming their societies. Ships that once took years to cross between systems now made the journey in days. "We're not here to rule," Thomas continued. "Earth has no interest in building another empire. Instead, we offer something the Council never did: true partnership." From his retirement chamber, former High Commander Vex watched the proceedings with a mixture of bitterness and amazement. Human medical technology had regenerated his failing organs, giving him years more life, a gift he hadn't expected from his conquerors. "They could have destroyed us all," Vex muttered to himself. "Instead, they're lifting us up. Perhaps this is what leadership should have been all along." In the new assembly, the first laws of the galactic partnership were being drafted. Every species would maintain its independence. Conflicts would be resolved through quantum space diplomacy, where lies were impossible and truth could be verified instantly. Trade routes that once took months now spanned the galaxy in weeks, thanks to human hyperspace technology. "Your civilizations have incredible potential," Thomas addressed the gathering. "The Council held you back, forcing you to develop along their approved paths. Now, you're free to grow in your own ways, with humanity providing protection and guidance when asked." The Trian representative, speaking for many younger species, stood up. "But how can we trust that humans won't become what the Council was? Power corrupts, as our history shows." Thomas smiled. "A fair question. That's why we spent 50 years developing this." He gestured, and the chamber's center filled with the hologram of a massive space station, the Harmony Archive, a quantum consciousness database containing the combined knowledge of all our civilizations. Complete technological transparency. No secrets, no hidden advantages. We all grow together. Across the galaxy, similar stations were already under construction. Built with human technology but operated jointly by all species, they would ensure that no single civilization could dominate the others again. Former War Master Kraz, watching from his own exile, finally understood the full scope of human planning. They didn't just want to win, he realized. They wanted to make winning impossible for anyone in the future. The new galactic partnership took shape over the following weeks. Trade flourished as human transport technology eliminated the vast distances between worlds. Medical advances spread to all species, ending plagues that had ravaged populations for generations. But most importantly, knowledge flowed freely. The Council's greatest crime, Thomas explained to the Assembly, wasn't their oppression. It was their suppression of potential. They forced every species to develop along the same path, crushing innovation that didn't fit their model. That ends today. As the session concluded, representatives from former Council worlds and independent species alike signed the Charter of Partnership. It wasn't just a political document. Quantum technology encoded it into the very fabric of space-time, making its provisions virtually impossible to break. "This is humanity's gift to the galaxy," Thomas declared. "Not our technology, not our protection, but a chance for every species to become what they were meant to be." The stars themselves seemed brighter that day as a new age of cooperation and advancement began. Humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing not just for war, but for peace. They had succeeded not just in defeating the Council, but in creating something better to replace it. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had planned all along.